honored by the New York Times Best Performance of 2020 for Dinner Debonair. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I just want to point out that not only did I create the Dinner Debonair, but I was actually the co-star.
You most certainly did a great job, Christopher. Wow. First last week, back-to-back Dynamite Diamond Ring champion, and now the New York Times Best Performance of 2020. But the Times got one thing wrong. I couldn't have done this without you, CJ.
Yeah, you're right.
And you know, I see what you people are writing online, and it's sickening. Claiming that I'm a much better performer than Chris Jericho. I mean, that's terrible, but I see through all that, Christopher. You know what I see? I see a mentor. I see the GOAT. And honest to God, I see my best friend. I couldn't have done this without you, and I couldn't have done it without you sexy hooligans either. I love you, man.
Welcome to Talk AEW, the AEW podcast from GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. My name is Ian Goodwillie, and we're here, as always, with freelance writer Mariko McDonald.
Hello!
And the editor-in-chief of both GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, Ricky D.
What's up, Ian? Would you be surprised if I said I had a lot of questions to start the show?
No, I wouldn't, and I'm excited for all of them.
So I think our listeners would like to know the answers to these questions if they don't already know. But my first question is, I saw some footage on YouTube of a Lucha Libre match that took place at Triple Mania, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the four competitors were all dressed like Marvel characters, including Venom, Spider-Man, and Thanos. And so I just found out that Brian Cage was Thanos, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Leo Rush was Arcana, a.k.a. Spider-Man.
Right, so why doesn't Brian Cage wrestle that great in AEW?
He's not allowed to, which is really sad because he's just not allowed to wrestle at all.
Well, it's crazy because he's, as Rick has pointed out many times in the past, he's very well-spoken and good on the mic. As Mariko very accurately just pointed out, he's a very talented wrestler. So it's kind of weird. His position in AEW is weird. He's walking around with this FTW championship, part of Team Taz, which is awesome, but he rarely wrestles. When he does, it's not as good as his potential, and he's never on the mic. They're kind of holding him back in a weird way. Like, I don't know why. They need to just... He's the machine. Let him cut loose.
Well, I think we know why. We said it several times on last week's podcast. They need a third show or a third hour. They need more time to use these wrestlers.
But it's also the way he's being used in the trio, especially now that there's more muscle. It's like, okay, well, give Hobbs the FTW and like let him form an amazing tag team with Wardlow. That's what I want.
And even well, God, everybody wants that. Plus, when he's in a match, he needs to be like. It's fine the time I get that, but when he is in a match, let him cut loose. Like, let him just be the machine.
Let him do the more athletic stuff that he can do. He can do it, and he's good at it.
He is,
and like,
absolutely.
Okay, yeah, he's booked as a monster right now, but like, you have a bunch of other monsters. Let this guy flip around.
He's the machine. Let him be the machine.
Well, last week when we talked about making our dream faction, I pretty much took Team Taz but removed Brian Cage. And now I kind of regret removing Brian Cage, but I still stand by what I said, that having Brian Cage and Will Hobbs in the same faction doesn't really make sense to me because they're both so the same. My second question is, what's up with the Marvel theme?
I honestly think it might have had something to do. Marvel and Funko actually have a line of toys coming out soon where it's luchadors in thematic Marvel like gear. So okay. I don't know if it's associated or not, but I immediately thought of that.
Well, this is why I'm asking, because I collect the Funko Pop figures. So you're saying that they're going to be releasing a set of what? Like, who are they?
There's a Hulk. I forget what they've given them all specific, like odd, like Mexican wrestler names, but there's Venom, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Deadpool, Venom. I think there's 8 or 9 of them in total, and they're doing. Like standard Funkos of them, but then they're also doing these like large plush figures that are like designed to look like Funkos, but they're big plushes. So, which also look kind of cool. I think they're doing some of like the small keychain ones they do as well, and also Marvel has their monthly like collector's Funko box that comes out, and the January one is themed to themed to the Marvel Lucha Libre line. So
amazing. I got to pick them up. By the way, listeners, we're going to get to our main events very soon, but I just got to get some questions out of the way. Question number 3. Darby Allen won the TNT TV Championship about 6 weeks ago. He has not yet defended the title. Is there a reason? Is he injured?
He's scheduled to.
When?
Next
year.
Yeah.
Does anybody? Okay, no, because I'm trying to be nice here. Because is he injured? Is there a reason, or is he just sitting in the bleachers?
Yeah, no, it's because his storyline is now also Cody's storyline. And so the attention needs to be on Cody.
Do you think that Darby Allin is good looking? I think he's a really good looking dude. Or you know what? He has the best skin in all of AEW.
He does have very good skin. I will give him that, yeah.
He does. And you know why I thought of this? Did you watch Dark?
Yeah.
Okay, this week, Peter Avalon, the sexiest man in the world, not really, but anyways, he was on the commentary track with Taz and Excalibur. I could not stop laughing. He kept on talking about everybody's skin and how he wanted someone with perfect skin to be part of the pageant. I was like, Darby Allin, the guy's skin is like pitch perfect.
I would like to say Peter Avalon was bloody amazing on commentary, too.
Amazing. Like
he was so good.
Dream commentary, Chris Jericho, John Silver, and Peter Avalon. You know you want it.
Oh, boy.
It'll be amazing.
I miss Veda Scott on commentary. I miss hearing her voice. She was really good, and she added something, not just because the fact that she's a she, but just because she added just a different perspective on wrestling and a different narrative. But she fit in so well with Excalibur and Taz too. Like
she fit something that wasn't there before. Because now Taz just goes off on these very strange tangents, and Excalibur just kind of like keeps pushing him to go as far as possible with these tangents. And it was nice to have a buffer in there to be like, hey guys, there's a wrestling match happening. Maybe we could talk about that.
I mean, someone who acts professional for 30 seconds.
I mean, as much as I absolutely adore, like, and I'm being totally serious, like, I really love when Taz goes on these bizarre tangents, and I know I'm not the only one who noticed because it's become a thing in Botchamania. And it makes me so happy every week to guess which bit from Dark is going to show up in Botchamania. I was right this week.
The whole thing about K-pop this week with Taz being so bloody confused.
That was so good.
So good. No, but I honest to God, Darby Allin's got the best skin. So Peter Avalon should pick him if he's looking for someone with perfect skin. I'm just saying. I had one more question.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember my question. Oh, yeah, right. The new tag team. They're huge. Okay. So this new tag team walks in.
Bear Country.
Bear Country.
First of all, I could not stop laughing at the commentary once again by Taz and Excalibur. So how is it possible that one dude picks up the other dude and they both flip over on the other two dudes and nobody dies?
That was an amazing cannonball. I'm just saying. Like, two guys who are, if they're not, like, they're both well over 300 pounds. One stacked up on the other, firing into the corner and hitting a cannonball on two other dudes. I can't. I was trying to think of, have I ever seen that happen before? I cannot think of. It was amazing, and I love those two guys. They were great. I don't know how nobody died. I'm with you. Like, everyone who was involved in that.
Sheer bloody luck.
Have you guys ever seen it's the couch gag for The Simpsons that involved Rick and Morty, where it's the Simpsons do their bit, they run onto the couch, and then Rick and Morty slam through the front of the house on their ship, hit the Simpsons, and disintegrate them all into one pile of yellow goo. And that's what should have happened there. When those two gigantic men landed on the two much smaller men, they all should have just turned into one big pile of goo.
My final question, so we can move on. Was the greatest moment in AEW Dark this week when Scorpio Sky sabotaged the waiting room and threw Sean Spears through a wall, through the bloody wall?
Like a goddamn lawn dart. He didn't just, like, push him and he went through the wall. He picked him up and he
launched him.
Literally, he threw Sean Spears like a spear.
Oh my God.
Right through the damn wall.
Speared him through the set.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
That was amazing.
That was great. And Rebel screaming during that attack, when she was like, "Why are you doing this?" Just
Okay,
screaming.
I don't know if you guys noticed on Dark this week, or no, sorry, I think it was Dynamite. There was someone screaming.
Yes.
Like screaming.
Yes, I
the
noticed.
entire show. It was so distracting.
That had to be a fan, like some random fan.
Yeah, obviously it was someone's idea of a good time, but like I was convinced someone was getting murdered.
I was so distracting. Like somebody would come out or do something, all of a sudden just screech, and you're like,
Like cats were all like pouncing on the TV. Like, what was that?
I was just like, Cody, go help that person. What is happening?
Also, every week I complain about the attire and praise the people who dress really well. So this week I got to praise Big Swole because I love her pink outfit. It looks so good on her. Purple.
Yeah, and she had the braids, the match.
She always looks great.
She's awesome. I love her. And Sammy Guevara changed his tights. Holy cow, he looks so good in those tights.
Dude could rock anything.
Yes.
Okay, it's one of the things I wanted to mention really quick, speaking of spears, nobody talks about Ricky Stark's spear.
It's like amazing.
It's one of the best spear I've ever seen in my life.
The only person who hears me is my husband.
That was the best spear ever. Whatever. No,
he regularly spears fools out their shoes.
Taz pointed out why he does such a good job with his spear. Like he talked about in AEW Dark, how he goes through the guy.
Oh, it's amazing. And I mean, how many people, most of the people we've seen do spears throughout wrestling are big dudes, right?
Except Edge.
Like really big dudes, except for Edge.
He's amazing.
And Edge is amazing too, but Ricky Stark's spear is the best spear I have ever seen in wrestling, period. Like, he just annihilates people. It's so freaking good.
Which makes me wonder if he used to play football.
He must have.
Yeah. That makes sense, actually.
All right, it only took about 10 minutes to answer my questions, of which we didn't really answer any of my questions, but whatever.
Some of them I'm not sure how we could have answered.
Yeah, some of them were a little more on the rhetorical side, to be fair.
And a quick update for our listeners. Ian made me spend all my money. I now own every single AEW action figure, or at least some of which are in pre-order, but still, they're on their way. Except for my favorite wrestler in the world, Brandi Rhodes, of which I'm going to take this opportunity to say congratulations, Brandi. I hope you really, really, really are pregnant, because if not, that would be like the most tasteless storyline ever.
Oh, I would be sad.
No, she's got to be.
Sure.
I don't think a woman in her position would do that. I certainly wouldn't.
I hope not. That would be a horrible storyline, because everybody's to put all that effort into it, and then if they pulled the rug like that, people would be so upset. Plus, I'd be really happy for them to have a kid. I think that'd be great. That's a nice addition to the Nightmare family. But I bet the kid wins a match before Lee Johnson does. Now,
the other joke was about their child fighting, obviously, John Moxley and Renee Paquette's child. Yeah.
20 years down the road.
Full Gear 2042.
Oh my God, that would be amazing if that actually happened. And Taz, who's still kicking, just comes running out and interrupts the match. A man will never die.
I'm also glad that Tony Schiavone pointed out that the ratings for Impact went from 1 to 6 viewers.
That was an amazing
Tony
joke.
was so salty.
I would be salty too, because this whole Kenny Omega storyline is falling apart in front of our eyes.
Very quickly, actually.
Say what?
I'm with you very quickly. Like the whole thing.
I'm enjoying how angry it's making everyone. My husband is the biggest mark, and he is just livid over the whole Kenny storyline. It is extremely entertaining to me.
This is the thing. When you say Kenny Omega is going to be in the main event of Dynamite, I expect a really good match. Like, actually a really good match, not whatever happened on Dynamite this week. And I like Joey Janela, and I like Kenny Omega, but that match...
No, that was full-on real garbage backyard wrestling.
That was the worst match ever on AEW Dynamite. I'm sorry, Joey Janela, like, he just sat there or stood there and waited to get hit. Like, you could not have made it more obvious.
No,
I mean, you know, the match is on with 10 minutes remaining in TV time. We know it's going to be a squash, but does it have to be so messy?
Well, exactly. And number two, why put it as the main event? Like, it's Kenny Omega versus Joey.
I do appreciate how heelish it is to put on a bad match as the main event. Like, honestly, I kind of like. This is probably giving everyone way too much credit, but that's the way I'm choosing to read all of this.
You want to believe it was intentional and part of the gimmick?
Yes, I do. Especially with Don Callis, like, doing his roving commentary, like, just peak douche canoe. It was amazing.
So the post-match was the best part of the match because when Pac came out, Pac, first of all, the bastard, like, that guy should be on the microphone more often because he's hilarious. But apart from the fact that it was so sloppy, it didn't help that they were just more focused and interested on talking on the microphone and doing commentary while the match is happening. So if not for Tony Schiavone, this match would have been a complete waste of my time. Thankfully, the real commentators actually made it somewhat entertaining.
Well, I would like to, but I have to point out that Booker T did the I'm doing my own commentary while I'm wrestling a match years ago in TNA infinitely better. Like, without question. That gimmick was hilarious. But that's also Booker T, so I mean.
Yeah, and he wasn't doing the commentary while wrestling. There was another guy doing the commentary while wrestling. Anyways.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like, the gimmick was funnier, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I watch this thing and I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. Like, put the mic down unless you're going to hit him with it. Like, it was an odd choice. The other thing I didn't understand was, so they go through all the motions of reestablishing this Bullet Club connection in Impact, and they put the belts on the Good Brothers. Why the hell did the Good Brothers come to Dynamite? Like, why were they there with him?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good question, but I really get the impression that Dynamite this week was really just kind of hashed together at the last minute.
It kind of had that vibe, didn't it?
It really, really did. I know that there were like a bunch of substitutions that had to happen. Wardlow had like family stuff, so there was actually Brandon Cutler was supposed to make his Dynamite debut or whatever as part of that redonkulous 12-man match. That was going to be like a 14-man match.
Well, also, quick question about that: why wasn't Brandon Cutler in the match? Why wasn't it Orange Cassidy? He literally is running buddies with two people in that match.
Just because Wardlow couldn't make it.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Why was it Brandon Cutler in the first place?
Oh, I don't know.
Why was Brandon Cutler the seventh man when Orange Cassidy is already involved in this on some level?
I have no idea, but like, why is Lance Archer paired with a team that he's not really paired for? It doesn't fit well with. He's the odd duck standing out. Like, I'm just so confused by the pairings right now of everyone. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Eddie Kingston and Penta were like best friends, and now they are not, and now he's with the Butcher and the Blade. But remember when what's-her-face Bunny left them for like a week or two, came back, like what the hell? It's like musical chairs.
There's a lot of weirdness happening. There's a lot of incomplete and incoherent stories right now that I'm confused about. Another big one for me is, okay, again, congrats to Brandi, but what the hell happens to this whole Shaq Jade Cargill thing now?
The good news is Brandi this time around actually has a good excuse to drop a storyline. But they clearly have to drop the storyline. So once again, every storyline that revolves around Brandi is for whatever reason cursed, be it her fault or not. So, yeah, I guess the basketball player is going to have to find a new way to introduce herself. And there was no reason to really bring Shaq on. And her beef with Cody, I guess, is just going to go away.
I'm wondering if that's why they've been moving her into an alignment with Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Oh well, whatever gives me more matches with Big Swole and Serena Deeb facing off against Ivelisse and Diamante. If I can get more of that, I'd be very happy. Serena Deeb, God, she is so goddamn good. Like, just
kind of not fair to the others.
By the way, she used to wrestle with WWE, and from my understanding, it was her fault it didn't work out, but what a big, huge loss for Vince McMahon.
Oh yeah, I mean, she was part of back in the day. She was with CM Punk and oddly enough, Luke Gallows as part of the Straight Edge Society.
Right.
Yeah, that's
that
way
was
back
her.
in the day.
Yeah.
She was a member of that group. They did this whole thing, and that was her introduction, was joining the Straight Edge Society. And then I don't know how long after that fell apart she hung around WWE, and then they brought her back more recently to train in NXT.
Also, since we're pretty much doing a recap of Dynamite right now for the opening talk spot, I just also want to mention that Top Flight really impressed me because I knew they were good wrestlers, but I didn't think they would be good on the microphone. And for a first time being interviewed backstage, they weren't great, but they weren't bad. They were actually pretty good.
Well, I've heard a lot worse from a lot more seasoned professionals than them.
Well, they said a lot more than most of the wrestlers in the roster, like Brian Cage, Will Hobbs, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, these guys have so much upside. It's going to be good to see them grow.
Yeah, ridiculous amount of talent for how young they are.
Can we just talk about how Shawn Spears went through the wall once again?
I really think I can't get over that spot. He flew through it and he left a hole in it. It was like watching a coyote go through a brick wall or something.
Such a sport. I just have so much respect for Shawn Spears. I just really feel like he's just really got his head screwed on straight and is just out there to have fun and do what he can and doesn't take anything for granted.
He really does. I can't agree with that assessment more. I think you're absolutely correct about him. He just seems like he's up for anything. He's like, yeah,
really
Scorpio.
game.
Long Darby through the wall. Sure.
Also, what about the rap battle this week between SCU and the Acclaimed?
Kazarian was surprised. He wasn't exactly on beat, but he wasn't half bad at it. Okay. It was funny.
He sometimes do a rap thing as as a rib on Impact or TNA sometimes.
He might have.
Maybe I'm just getting confused with him and Christopher Daniels doing the AJ Styles thing, but he does a hilarious AJ Styles, by the way. If you haven't heard Kazarian do AJ Styles.
I have not.
Spot on. It is very accurate.
I now know what I'm looking for after.
I also think my best friend Fuego Del Sol is not going to be wrestling anytime soon because they practically killed him with the finishing move on Dark this week. Did you see what they did to him? Holy cow. Jurassic Express, man. They can be lethal sometimes.
Oh my God, Fuego! He's lucky he wasn't broken down into his constituent atoms at that point. He almost got knocked out of existence. That was a thing.
So here we are talking about what is one of the worst episodes of AEW Dynamite, and yet we still had a blast watching it, which is the reason why Dynamite made our list of the best TV shows of 2020 over at Goombastomp.com, side by side with shows like The Mandalorian and Better Call Saul and, all of these great scripted dramas and comedies like Ted Lasso, so on and so forth. But AEW Dynamite is on the list because it has been appointment viewing. It has been so good, especially during the pandemic when people so desperately needed some form of entertainment. Despite the fact that there was no fans in attendance for weeks, and even now they only get about 100 to 200, 500 fans, which you can't really hear. I mean, they're doing such an amazing job. Just looking back, we're going to talk about the best of 2020 in the next two episodes, but everything from the musical to the first appearance of Matt Hardy, the feud between the Drone and Chris Jericho, the Stadium Stampede, they've just outdone themselves this year. I'm so impressed.
Well, even AEW is one of those things. It's not always perfect. Sometimes it's bad, but it's one of those things that even when it's bad, it's still a lot of fun. When I watch WWE, when it's bad, and more often than not, it's bad at this point, it's just bad because nobody seems to care. The wrestlers obviously care, but you look at you get this feeling that the people programming it backstage, the people booking the matches, almost barely seem to give a crap anymore. Whereas when you watch AEW, it's often when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's good. That's the thing. It's still enjoyable. It's still fun. There's still somebody in the ring having a good time doing what they do. And you got to appreciate that.
It's going to be interesting if absolutely nothing else. You're going to see, people taking risks people trying to tell different kinds of stories, whether or not it always works out the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But I know, I don't know what I'm going to get with AEW, but I know I'm going to be entertained.
And isn't that what you ultimately want from wrestling? The whole point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Vince McMahon is the one who started calling wrestlers sports entertainers. He seems to have forgotten it needs to be entertaining sometimes. And a lot of times, what he does just isn't entertaining, where at least AEW is always entertaining. Even if it's just Sting coming out for another foam party on the entrance ramp, it's still entertaining. Like, it's still Sting coming out, looking at Taz, then it ends. I mean, you know what? If that's all Swanee does, fine. I mean, I would like to see some progress there. But goddamn, it's still Sting and it's still fun.
But you know what? That spot really impressed me, because when Sting came out, the way Taz controlled his crew is the way it should be done. Because in all honesty, it's 5 against 1. Yes, Sting has the baseball bat, so technically they can beat his ass, and he's also 61 years old. But it's sort of like but there was a matter of like respect, and it was like Taz saying, "Okay, hold on." Will Hobbs was like the young guy, the hothead. He just wanted to beat the crap out of Sting. But with Taz being there, present next to them, it gave them a reason not to attack Sting. So it just made it seem more believable. And the reason why I love Team Taz so much is because they actually feel like a unit, and they feel like the heels, and they always feel like they are in character. Like, even when Ricky and Taz are doing commentary, they still feel like they are in character. And I feel like a lot of the wrestlers just bounce back and forth between heel and good guy and bad guy. I'm not entirely sure what is going on with a lot of them sometimes. So I don't know. I really, really like this faction, and I'm telling you guys, I just can't wait for the third hour. When is this happening? Because I said it last week, and I'll say it again. They need a second show before they explode, because there's just too much bloody good talent.
You can't argue with that. I mean, they've got a lot to put forward, and if they're going to start advancing some of these storylines, you've said it before. Yeah, the hour needs to be there, but also we've also talked about it before too. They need to make better use out of dark too. Like, I mean, having 14 to 17 matches is great, but they need some more of that, more segments, more storyline development in it too. If they start doing that, they could, if they got that going more in dark, put that third hour in, got all 3 of those shows working together, my God, they'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think the Lance Archer storyline pretty much sums up the problem with AEW. Like, you have this giant, this monster killer, who's like enormous. Like, when you see him side by side next to all the wrestlers in the ring, he's like so much taller, bigger, and stronger than a lot of these dudes. He's talented. I like him on the microphone. I like the fact that they paired him with Jake the Snake, but they don't really know what to do with him because there's not enough time to have all of these different feuds and different wrestling matches. So they pair him with Rey Fenix and Penta. But like you said, Ian, it's such a strange pairing, especially when Pac shows up out of nowhere. And so he doesn't really feel like he belongs. And so he's stuck in between them. Like, he's stuck in the middle of them and the Butcher, the Blade, and Eddie Kingston. And I'm not really sure how he fits into the storyline at this point.
Well, right now, it's that whole storyline is Eddie and his family. So you've got Eddie, Butcher, and Blade. That's 3 versus Pac and the Lucha Bros, Penta, and Rey. So that's 3. It's 3 on 3. It's 3 on 3, and then Archer. And you're kind of left going, Archer made more sense when it looked like Penta was like Rey might be splitting up the Lucha Bros, and Rey needed backup, and then Pac would come back and they'd be a trio. That made a bit more sense, but now there's this random 4th element plus, Jake the Snake lingering in the background wanting to DDT people. And you kind of look at it and you start wondering, okay, well, how does it fit in? And then Pac and Archer are kind of at each other. But the other weird thing is, okay, so Eddie and Blade and Butcher are definitively heels, without question. Like, Eddie's family, they're the heels. So that makes, in this feud, that essentially makes Pac and the Lucha Bros the baby faces. They're the good guys. Then that's kind of reinforced with the way they kind of went after Kenny Omega, who's the monster heel right now. So their kind of Death Triangle has turned into, if they're in the midst of turning into a faction of faces. If Archer is associated with him, is he going to end up turning face too? And if so, how does that serve him any better than being a heel? He's or is he going to be one of these weird guys that floats? Archer is so confusing right now, and having him unless the only way all of this adds up is if Eddie gets a fourth member to their they have the bunny, of course, but like gets another member to that family, a fourth, like a partner in crime they can go up against. Like,
but even
I don't
then,
know,
I honestly
Square?
find Lance's whole beef with Eddie Kingston like tenuous at best. Like inserting him into this whole feud with, like you said, the Lucha Brothers, it only really made sense when it looked like they were gonna kind of get split up, and maybe we'd get like a three-way feud or like, bigger factions or something. And now it's just like, okay, so there's two trios who are perfectly balanced to go after each other, and then this really big dude who needed someone to pick a fight with, and that was the best we could do. Like,
but the pairings are so weird across the grid. It's not just Lance Archer. It's Adam Page. It's everyone. It's Matt Hardy. I mean, at least Matt Hardy is turning into a heel. Adam Page, I'm completely I mean, I like the pairing of Adam Page with Silver and Reynolds, and I think that they actually make a great combination. But again, we don't have like a triple threat tag team championship, but we have a lot of trios in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
I think two things. I think the Page storyline, I mean, if you're trying to recruit Page into the Dark Order, losing a trios match doesn't help you. But I think it would be more interesting if instead of them recruiting him to the Dark Order, Page recruits them away from the Dark Order. Like he pulls Reynolds and Silver away and they start doing their thing.
Yeah, if they end up being a bunch of cowboys, which would be really cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing is with Archer, I think what happened with Archer was they started putting him with the Lucha Bros because AEW didn't know when Pac was coming back. And now they're kind of in this weird place.
Yeah, but here's the other weird thing. Like, Angelico's part of a tag team. Last week, they were my favorite tag team. This week, I can't say they're my favorite tag team because they didn't have a tag team match. He had a singles match with Cody Rhodes, which is fine because he's a great wrestler and it was a good match. Yep. But it's like, it was a strange decision to break up the tag team when you just pushed them last week on Dynamite and they had this amazing match with the Young Bucks, and now you're splitting them up and he's having a solo match with Cody Rhodes. So it seems like you're putting the spotlight on Angelico, and Jack Evans is left in the corner outside the ring just looking on. It's very strange.
You're absolutely right. It's weird to follow up.
Felt more like they just needed somebody to wrestle Cody, and everybody else was already in a storyline. Like that was one of the most thrown together feeling matches yet. I think it was one of the better matches.
It was. But I think I would have liked to have seen them. Like, why not? I don't disagree with what Ricky's saying, but I mean, let's throw Lee Johnson out there with Cody and just have a tag match then.
Yeah,
that's true.
Or okay, the Varsity Blondes, again, a new tag team I really love. These two guys look like they're an old school tag team, like the Killer Bees. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they work really well together too.
They really do. Did they tag together before AEW at all, or is this?
No.
This was new to them, like pairing together here. Wow.
Yeah, because
damn.
Well, Pillman Jr. for a while has been doing tag stuff because he was with the New Generation Heart Foundation,
right?
With Davey Boy Jr. and what's his nuts?
Teddy.
Yes, Teddy.
Yeah, all I can say is, man, they haven't been. Man, Griffin, Pillman, there haven't been tagging together long, but god damn, they definitely have a thing there like that.
I don't know, man. They remind me more of the Killer Bees. Remember
I can see that.
Jim Brunzell and Brian Blair.
Absolutely, I can see that. They're good together. I'm digging it. They're having some good luck putting together tag teams there too, because the Acclaimed have obviously worked out extremely well.
Yeah.
Like, that's out of the blue too. That's a Tony Khan project, and it has paid off big time. Like, they're a force to be reckoned with. I'm curious to see how their title shot pans out for them next week. I don't think they're going to win, but I mean, that should still be a hell of a match.
Yeah, no, they seem to do a really good job with tag teams. Look at Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. It's just whenever there's trios involved, there's always one odd duck.
Yeah.
I think
that's not untrue. They've got some good trios. They've got some really awkward ones too that they need to iron out. If they're serious about a trios championship, they need to iron that out before they go down that road. All right, it's time for a break in Talk AEW. When we come back, we're going to be talking AEW finishers. We'll see you in a minute.
First, you were by far my pick to win the Battle Royal, so we got to talk about what the hell happened, because I saw Scorpio Sky throw you out of the ring, and you beat Scorpio Sky in Dynamite weeks ago. What happened? How did he eliminate you? And what are you doing? You have Tully Blanchard, so what is going on? Because it's got to be something that none of us are seeing that this is going on.
It was like 15 questions.
Well, answer all of them.
The thing that is going on is Sean Spears 17-2. That's what's going on.
And we're back with Talk AEW for GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, and we are talking finishing moves. What is our favorite from AEW? And do wrestlers these days take finishers for granted and kick out too often? Like, it's been coming up lately. I mean, I guess JR has been talking about it. Darby chimed in saying, I agree with JR, although he didn't really specify what. I would assume that. But let's, before we get into take it granted and kicking out too often, let's start. What are our favorite finishers right now in AEW?
Well, right off the top of my head, I'm going to say Lance Archer. He has sort of like what Razor Ramon used to do, but in reverse, and it looks really scary. A bad finisher would be Jake Hager pulling off the F10, but when Wardlow does it, it looks amazing.
What was that? That was
no idea. It was terrible.
F0.
Yeah.
It was effed up is what it was.
Yeah,
thank you.
Oh, I would have, if I was Wardlow, I'd be so mad right now.
Oh, he better come back and throw that on JK, or just walk up to the ring in the middle of something, pick up Hager and just flip him through the ring and be like, eat it, walk out of the ring.
So I'm gonna start with Lance Archer, Murdoch Lance Archer, his finishing move, and Darby Allen, the coffin drop, just because it's so original. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually effective. Like, I don't think it would actually knock someone out, but whatever. I mean, we've seen stupider finisher moves, like, in the past. Like, I mean, the electric elbow.
Hulk Hogan used to finish people off with a leg drop, for God's sake. Like, at this point, anything is more believable than a goddamn leg drop.
But that's what JR wants, right? Like, he wants people to get a leg drop and then they automatically lose the match. I think JR is right to some extent. I do think that there's too much of an extreme in his argument. I think not everyone. There are some people who tend to just use finishers from wrestlers in the past, like the Young Bucks with the super kick, which was Shawn Michaels' finishing move. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, it's a different world, a different universe. It's a different wrestling promotion. Like, in AEW Dynamite, Shawn Michaels has never wrestled a match, right? So in that world, the super kick doesn't mean anything to AEW. It doesn't mean as much to AEW Dynamite as it does to Shawn Michaels in WWE, if that makes any sense.
I can see that. Also, I mean, the Shawn Michaels finishing move isn't a super kick. It's sweet chin music. It's the whole wind-up. It's the production around it. Like, he stands in the corner and he stomps and then he lines it up and he delivers the super kick. Whereas, like, the Young Bucks are delivering super kicks, but it's just like, quick one-shot kick kind of thing. And that's a different thing to me. There's a level of production that goes into it. I mean, I was just going to say, like, I mean, how many people have versions of cutters that they use as finishing moves? Like, I mean, Cody has a hell of a cutter, right? Like, but I mean, there's some people who use it, like, John Moxley has been using the DDT as a finisher forever. Other people just throw them in the middle of matches. But it's the modifications and the productions around it that make a finisher, not just the move itself. And I think that's part of the point that JR has missed in his argument of it. It's not just, Shawn Michaels used a super kick. Shawn Michaels used sweet chin music. That's not the same thing.
I do think in some wrestling promotions and some wrestling matches and some pay-per-view events, we do get a little too many kickouts out of finishers. Like, someone will drop a finisher like 5 times and someone will kick out. But who started doing that way back like 10 years ago was WWE.
Oh, they still do it. Yeah, no. Like,
I still feel like there's probably too many kickouts in general, let alone, real finishers. Like, there's just too many false finishes. It's a little predictable these days.
Every time somebody beats Brock Lesnar in a match, they have to do their finisher to him 17 times because reputedly that's the only moves that work on him. So you'll see Roman Reigns spear him and Superman punch him 50 times. Seth Rollins will hit him with 97 curb stomps before he stays down. Drew McIntyre has to hit the Claymore kick 847 million times. It's one of these things where it's just, okay, yeah, well...
Yeah, with certain competitors, it kind of makes sense, even if it does get kind of tired.
It does. But... At the same time, like, it's just... I mean, how many one-winged angels did I have to watch from Kenny Omega before John Moxley got put down?
Yeah.
Like, there comes a point where every wrestler should have that one move in their arsenal that when they slap it on, that's the end of the match. Like, they have other secondary moves that that are devastating and people kick out of, but I agree. That's the point where I agree with JR, is that every wrestler needs to have that one move that's devastating, but it also...
Yeah, if everyone kicks out of it, it's not a finisher anymore.
Well, exactly.
It's just another move.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right there.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to have proper finishers, calling them finishers and let people end matches. And I think that's the real solution to the problem. It's not that people have these if they're going to have finishers, nobody should be kicking out. But at the same time, if they don't want to do that, stop having finishers. And Mox has 5 different weapons in his arsenal. Any one of them might put the guy down. Who knows which one it will be? That would actually be better to me, because the second I see the tombstone, I know the match is over, or I used to anyway. Not so much anymore. It doesn't happen as much anymore. Like even before the retirement, it got to a point where the tombstone didn't even finish people off anymore. The last pile driver in WWE didn't do it anymore. Like, it's one of those things where if you're going to have finishers, have finishers. If they're not finishers, stop talking about finishers at all. Do not refer to them as finishing moves. Just have moves.
The reason why I want to talk about this specific topic this week in our main event was because Dean Malenko is teaching Big Swole how to do a Texas Cloverleaf.
Oh yeah, the cloverleaf. It is a Texas cloverleaf, but she has a different name for it, and I can't think of it right now.
Right. It's but it is a Texas cloverleaf though. She does have a different name. So I mean, that isn't like one of the. If you were to do like a list of top 50, maybe you would put on the top 50. But I was just thinking about that watching Dynamite and how they called it out like about 3 or 4 times and mentioned Dean Malenko. And mentioned Dean Malenko and how he's been teaching her how to do this like finishing move. And I remember like Jericho, I always loved his Lion Salt and the Lion Tamer. And my favorite finisher of all time is maybe Shawn Michaels' super kick. Like, I would have to think about this, but I don't know. What do you guys think about Dynamite or I'm not Dynamite, AEW, like in general? Like, who has the best finishers?
Honestly, it's probably. I mean, Kenny Omega's one-winged angel's a hell of a finisher. Let's be honest.
Pretty epic, and it works because it is like such a complicated thing to get someone into to start with that like just getting it to the point where he can even try to perform it is credible to a certain extent. Or it like adds to its credibility, I guess, as a finishing move. I'm also a really big fan of the Rushdown Bow. I know it's relatively simple, but Ricky Starks manages to really make it look devastating.
Yeah, but that's why Ricky's so amazing, because it's a relatively simple move. You're absolutely right. But he also, again, he makes that spear looks amazing. A relatively simple move. He takes these two. Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, he has 2 finishers, too. That's what I love about this guy. I love wrestlers who have 2 killer finisher moves. But, for example, like the Swanton Bomb was Jeff Hardy's finisher, right? And nowadays, everybody does a Swanton Bomb. So, for me, the Swanton Bomb is a move that's being overused. I mean, you see guys that are like 350 pounds, 7 feet doing Swanton bombs, and it no longer feels as special anymore because it's overused. And so that's what I'm saying, where like I do sort of somewhat agree with JR, but the thing about JR is that, and again, I didn't listen to the actual podcast, but it sounded like he just made a statement that was so general, so broad, and was leaning towards one side of the extreme, but somewhere in the middle, there's a happy medium. And I would be okay with a guy like Wardlow or Lance Archer or whoever doing a Swanton Bomb, maybe. But I mean, like, I think when you have your roster, like you're Tony Khan, and these are your 45 wrestlers, right? I think that there should be variety, and not everybody should be doing a Swanton Bomb. And even Sammy Guevara said that everybody does the Canadian Destroyer. Like every week, there's like 10 wrestlers doing a Canadian Destroyer. Like, it's too much.
Yeah, I think it is a little much. There's certain moves that I think there used to be. It's less about the finishers to me is the problem, and there used to be more distinct move sets between different wrestlers, and it used to be a bigger deal if another wrestler did your move. It doesn't feel like that's the case anymore. Like it used to be a thing of respect that if you wanted to use another wrestler's move, like there was a process, a conversation needed to be had. There was respect there, and I don't know if that's the same anymore. I think people just kind of do what they do when they do it now, and it feels like it is a little bit more homogenized.
It's also, we're kind of at a point where there is only so much innovation you can do on a move too. You know, and kind of make it your own. So it's not necessarily that you're trying to crib something from someone, but
I didn't mean it that way. My apologies.
No. But I mean, the other thing too is that you know, there do seem to be sort of fads that kind of come up in the way of doing certain transitions where like everyone does a destroyer because it's just a really convenient transition.
For sure. But the thing is, Ian, you're right. It's about entertainment, and it's about how you sell the move. It's part of acting, right? So when you look at The Rock and he does the people's elbow, he doesn't just drop an elbow drop. Like, there's a big, huge buildup. You know, he looks at the crowd, he pauses, he looks up in the air, he breathes.
Pulls that elbow pad off.
Throws it into the crowd. And then he does the move. You know, when you think of John Cena, you know, like these guys, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, probably the greatest finishing move of all time, only because of the amount of energy and excitement that it brings from the crowd. Like, it just, everyone pops whenever he does a stunner. But, you know, look at Chris Jericho, the Judas Effect. It's so simple, but it makes sense for Jericho because he's not young anymore, right? So you're going to give him a finisher.
It works.
Yeah.
You know where I think AEW excels on finishers? Honestly, it's tag teams. You look at a finisher like Gin and Juice. Come on. That Gin and Juice finisher, the Private Party's finisher, is insane. I love that move.
Yeah, most of the tag team finishers are great. Also, speaking of drama in a finisher, we have neglected the Lockjaw.
Oh, the Lockjaw.
I mean, calling for a glove, like selling it with like, you know, blood spots, like.
And I mean, that's not very different from what Mankind used to do with his finisher. It's just
Mr. Socko.
Yeah. I remember one of the first matches I saw her and someone was criticizing, like, I don't get it. You put your hand on her mouth. She's like, it's a mandible claw. Like, what do you want
clear on here?
Yeah, like, this is a wrestling move.
Well, and it's absolutely right. Like, taking it back to what you were saying before, Rick, about Jeff Hardy and the Swanton Bomb. Think about what he does. The guy gets in position. He goes outside the ring. He climbs the top rope. He takes his shirt off. He does the guns. He does, like, there's a whole thing to that where another guy gets up. Like, and that's what that's the key. Like, anytime you start dissecting the finishing move version of what seems like it's a simple thing, it keeps coming back to that production value, that how do you ham it up, right? Like, what do you do before it? What's the lead up? How do you, everything that's involved in it? And it looks, the wrestlers who put those extra steps in are the ones like The Rock or Stone Cold who take it to the next level. Although I have to admit, and especially in the case of Stone Cold, certain guys like The Rock and Triple H, the way they would take the stunner, the way they would just oversell it sometimes. Oh my God.
Well, Shawn Michaels, remember how he used to oversell his?
Yes.
He was like the best at overselling it.
He was.
Like if Darby Allen dropped a coffin drop on Shawn Michaels, he would bounce out of the ring. That's what Shawn Michaels would do.
Yeah, he would. You're absolutely right. He would somehow go shooting across the ring like a glitch in a video game and just launch against the laws of physics or something. Imagine Ric Flair taking that.
Yeah. So I know everybody likes the one-winged angel, the V-trigger. For me, it's just like I really do prefer Darby Allin's finisher and Lance Archer's finisher. Like, those are my two favorite. And of course,
Lance Archer's
Pac.
Incredible.
I'm also a fan of the buckshot lariat just because, again, of the drama.
The buckshot lariat's insane. It's the only clothesline I can think of that even comes close to comparing to JBL's. Like,
it's one of the few, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh, Britt Baker's finisher, that lockjaw is just, again, I absolutely, like, the whole thing around it, and it just fits Baker's character so perfectly.
Exactly. That's the thing that kind of takes it over the top for me for her.
It really does. Like, she's a dentist, and her finisher is the lockjaw. Come on. That's just perfect. I love some people might claim that's a little on the nose. My response is, shut up. That's perfect. Oh, she's great. I love her.
Yeah, and then referencing the mandibular nerve while she does it. Like, It's perfect. It fits into the character so well.
It's brilliant. All the packaging around her is great. I really want to see her. Like, she's my vote for the next women's champion for them. Like, I think did so much great work for them while she was injured over the whole all the worst parts of the pandemic for them. And then she continued, like, her in-ring work is amazing. Her and Rebel are just a killer team together. And there's so much good stuff with her. Like, that finisher is just so fantastic. She's the next one for me. I don't know if that's what'll happen, but I hope so.
I would be surprised if she didn't get a run soon. I want to say I'm also quite a big fan of Anna Jay's rear naked choke. She's been really good at selling it. They've been protecting it so well. It's credible.
It really is. No, they've done a good job with it, and her in general. I wasn't sure about her when she first debuted, but the Dark Order things worked out well for her.
She's so game. Like, I don't know if you saw the Unrestricted with her, but I have so much respect for her now, and like what she got into wrestling to do, and like just how much she's taking everything that's being given to her and like just making it work so quickly. It's just really impressive.
You know what's odd? I've been trying to think of some other wrestlers to mention, like, for their finishing moves, and there's some that I'm like, I can't even think of what their finishing move is. Like, I love Penta and Ray. I don't know what their finisher is because their normal moves are so incredible. I can't even like, everything they do is great. So every move they make is a borderline finishing move.
Well, their finisher is I forget what it's called, but it's this really crazy pile driver, but I forget what it's actually called.
Right.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about now. That's a great move, but they got so much in their arsenal. I quite respect Sonny Kiss's finishing move, like that split off the top rope. I'm like, I see him do it. I'm like, good Lord, that's just damn impressive.
If I go through the AEW roster right now, there's a lot of these dudes. I have no idea what their finisher is. Like Alex Reynolds.
No idea.
Angelico, is it the submission move, I guess?
Yes, Angelico is that killer submission move he does. That I apologize to him. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a hell of a move, though. Like, but the production of it, like getting the guy set up, that he snaps to the ground, and it's great to watch.
Brody Lee?
I do not know what his finisher is.
I think it's just a big boot.
I think so. You know what I find interesting is if you go down AEW's, this is a complete aside, but when you're going down AEW's roster page, it still has Awesome Kong on it.
I know, I said that 2 weeks ago, and you guys were like, no. And I was like, no, it's there. Remember? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why.
It's very odd that it's still there. I mean, also it says she has a...
That was the weirdest part, that she has a win this year, and that's
I think that's the part we were disputing. Wasn't that she was still talking about the roster? It's such, like, why is she? What match did she wrestle? We definitely talked about this.
She hasn't wrestled in
2020 at all.
At least
the only wrestling I've seen her do in 2020. Did you guys happen to watch the Netflix series Auntie Donna's House of Fun?
I only watched some of it because it gives me anxiety.
It's pure insanity.
It's very funny, but it does give me anxiety.
It's pure insanity. Like, they're an Australian comedy group that does a lot of music and a lot of other stuff, but they're absurdist on a level that you're not fully prepared for when you start watching.
I watched someone explaining it with an entire primer on Dada, and I think that's the best way to approach it.
It's funny as hell, though. But there's Awesome Kong is in that series.
What?
There's an episode where they decide to compete in the 2000 Olympics. Don't even ask. And then Awesome Kong confronts them in their bedroom and attacks them. And then the four of them they have a competition to see who will get the most medals. You don't see any of the competition. But then, like, she's back at the end. They've all won a ton of medals and they have Christmas together. But yeah, Awesome Kong is in that series. In her full wrestling gear, too. In her full wrestling gear. She is full-on Awesome Kong.
Okay.
What is Sammy Guevaro's finishing move? Is it the 630?
I think that's something that he needs still. Is that I don't know if he has that one move that I identify with him. Like, he's again.
That's true.
He's he reminds me of the Lucha Bros in that I think he's so talented. I don't identify a single move with him. I just think of him as everyman. Like,
yeah,
pretty
it's
much
kind of like,
everything.
oh, he's the guy who could do a 450 through a table without blinking. Like,
Exactly.
But this brings me to my last question. Does a wrestler need a finishing move to be taken seriously?
Honestly, no. I think they just need good moves. Like, they need a good move set overall and a style that's identifiable with them. And sometimes, honestly, a finisher develops organically. Like, I mean, they just do a move enough that it becomes associated with them. Like, I honestly, I look at someone like go with Roman Reigns, for example. Like, do I think of the spear or the Superman punch he does as his finishers per se? Not really. He uses them a lot, but it's not like he has something like a curb stomp like Seth Rollins does, right? Where it's just, okay, you just stomp that dude's face into a mat. Yeah, the match is over now. Whereas you look at somebody like Sammy, I think he just has an arsenal of great moves that he pulls out. And as he gets older, as he wrestles more, something will jump out and become that one move for him, that signature move that he does. But at the same time, don't rush it. Like, I think the era of, like, the Hulk Hogan leg drop, where Hulk Hogan does the leg drop and the match is over, I think that era is kind of over, you know? Like, I think we're moving past it.
Well, according to ProWrestlingFandom.com, his finisher is the 630 senton. So I am correct.
Okay. I literally couldn't have.
The thing is, like, that's a crazy finisher. Like, how many times can he actually pull a 630 senton? I mean, I know he's talented,
I think
but
we've seen it like once or twice on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something he pulls out very often, so I don't really consider that a signature. It's an overall move set, which is something that we need to see. You need to see him wrestle more for that to develop. So, again, back to needing that extra hour, right? Also, I would like to, again, as an aside for their roster, they still list Peter Avalon as the librarian. He is not the librarian. He is pretty Peter Avalon, PPA. PPA all day. I don't know. I'm really into this pretty Peter Avalon gimmick. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, and I love it.
Yeah, I love the bits he did on BT that were like basically the Continental, but just Peter Avalon is. Yeah, they only managed to do a couple. I don't know if they got a cease and desist or something, but like it was perfect.
They actually put a couple of those on air. And on Dark, I think on Dark, and I was immediately like, "Oh my God, it's the Continental!" And everybody I knew looked at me and went, "What the hell are you talking about? What's the Continental?" I'm like,
I know,
"Shut up, you heathens!"
Like, I don't know.
You go watch Christopher Walken work. Oh, I love you, Christopher Walken.
I don't know, man. I got my 3 finishers. I'm glad we had this talk. I can now go to sleep in peace, and it won't drive me nuts. I got Ricky Starks. I got Darby Allen. I got Lance Archer.
I gotta admit, those are great finishers.
I would pick Sammy's, but he doesn't really do it on very often.
He's used it to finish people a handful of times. I mean, it's not really a finisher then. I honestly, whenever I start thinking of finishers, like I honestly do love Angelico's finisher. I love that submission. I love Private Party's Gin and Juice. I think those are 2 of the better ones they've got right now.
I like FTR's finisher.
Nothing wrong with FTR's finisher.
I also like the name of Brandon Cutler's finisher, although I don't know if like knees to the back is the most devastating move.
What's the name of it?
TPK, Total Party Kill, and I'm a freaking nerd. So.
Wait a minute. We're forgetting the greatest finisher of all time. You ready? The Tornado DDT. Fuego Del Sol.
The Tornado DDT, delivered by a true master of it, like Fuego Del Sol, is devastating beyond belief.
Ian, this move is so incredible that we are lucky we haven't yet seen it because we will go blind. It's so amazing that we will lose our sight. If he ever pulls this move, your head is going to explode.
From what I understand of Fuego Del Sol's Tornado DDT is that its effect on people who see it is a lot like the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones, in that it will melt you like a candle and leave nothing behind. That's how amazing a Tornado DDT he has.
You know what? My prediction is he's going to appear on Dynamite before the end of the year.
I sincerely hope he never does the Tornado DDT.
Yeah, that's also how I feel.
It's funnier if he doesn't.
Yes.
Or it would be amazing if he does it, but the lights go out.
There we go.
The guy's lying in the middle of his whoever he's fighting is lying in the middle of the ring, knocked out cold, but the lights go out because Sting walks out or something happens and nobody sees it.
Or he does it, but there's a sudden flash of light and everyone's blinded by the glory of Fuego Del Sol's Tornado DDT. Nobody could see it because we just couldn't look at it. It was like the face of God.
Or Cody's pyro.
Either or, yeah. Hopefully it'll take a bit less time. Cody should really start his pyro before the show goes on the air, just to get out of the way so he can get down to the ring and finish a thought for once. Good God. He's constantly being interrupted. Poor Cody. He just wants to talk to the people. And everyone's always interrupting him. Sting and Taz and all these other people. He just wants to talk, and just everyone's always walking out, and he's in his suit, and he just can't get a word in edgewise. Poor guy.
You know, I do like Cody Rhodes. I just think we've had too much Cody Rhodes.
I can't honestly argue with that. Like, the smartest move they made was dropping the belt to Darby, who doesn't wrestle anymore, apparently, or very often. Apparently, the TNT Championship is only... I think the problem is if you take it down a certain height, it goes bad. So they got to keep it in the upper deck safe so it doesn't, like, explode or something. I don't freaking know what's going on with that.
I mean, the funny thing is, it's a TV title, but yet he won it on a pay-per-view, and he has not yet defended the championship on TV.
We've seen more matches. Well, at this point, since he won it, there have been more defenses of the main championship on TV. And there's going to be another one next week.
Do you know Fuego del Sol's had more matches than Darby Allen in the past 6 weeks?
I did not know that.
He's on freaking Dark every week.
Yep. Yeah.
Good for Fuego. Fuego. Just as a complete aside, as I was researching Bear Country, there's technically a third bear, I guess, too, in that faction. There are 3 bears. There's a third bear that worked with them on the Indies. I don't know if he still does. I don't know what the deal with them is. That's all I know. But there were 3 bears, and they really like porridge. Hopefully they have a blonde girl as their manager. That would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh God, everything should be based on a fairy tale in pro wrestling from now on.
I'm not necessarily against that.
I know, it could be awesome. An entire promotion just based on fairy tales. I mean, Orange Cassidy did used to wrestle as an ant, for God's sake, so...
There's a really good match on Reddit with Bear Country and The Butcher and a Blade, which you can watch.
Ooh.
It's
Really?
pretty damn impressive, yeah.
Wow. I think Bear Country, this is why Bear Country is a prime example of why AEW has earned their kind of reputation as being the company of tag teams at this point, because they've put together great tag teams like Varsity Blondes, like the Acclaimed, but then they're picking up talent like Top Flight and Bear Country and these guys who've got skills and are established. Even if they've only been in the game a couple of years, like Top Flight, they're still established. They've got a rhythm. They've got something there, and they're just doing good at picking this stuff up. You got to give them credit for that. They're scouting good tag team talent, period. And they also actually let tag teams wrestle, unlike certain companies who shall remain nameless and just break up tag teams for no reason all the time. Their names rhyme Chintz McMahon. And that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Talk AEW. As always, a big thank you goes out to Mariko McDonald.
Thank you.
Another big thank you to the editor-in-chief of GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, Ricky D.
As always, a friendly reminder, you can listen to the show over at GoombaStomp.com. The show is available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, you name it. All the links are over at GoombaStomp.com. Just check the wrestling section or the podcast section. And also do check out Ian's weekly wrestling coverage. Now you're splitting your coverage of Dark and Dynamite.
There's so much to say.
Right.
And I don't want people to have to sort through 8,000 words on AEW each week.
I will be posting a list of the best of AEW 2020, which I'm hoping will be ready before we record our next podcast, because the next 2 podcasts, I think we're going to talk about the best of 2020.
I think that sounds like a wonderful plan. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on Talk to AEW next week.